You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems. Well, perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple.
It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground.
We have serious problems to solve, and we need serious people to solve them.
Republicans and Democrats.
All right, folks. Well, it's Saturday morning, and it's just a few minutes past the hour, and that means it is time for Finding Common Ground. I am one half of the crew, Mr. Rick Robinson, joined today by my big head-swelled co-host who's about to do an interview with Jill Stein, and because he thinks he's a rock star now, so we have to give him as much crap as possible. Good morning, Bryce. How are you?
I'm good. Yep, ready to interview Dr. Jill Stein. So stay with me at 11 o'clock. The show will start, and at 11:30, the interview will begin.
And before that, you're stuck with me, helping him.
Pretty much.
All right, so lots of stuff going on in the news, lots of crazy things to talk about, most of which is the fact that I am now just as pissed off at the Libertarian Party as I am the Democrat and Republican Party. Fun times, fun times.
Yeah, I saw your post about how the guy called, what was it, sniper rifles? Weapons of mass destruction?
No, it wasn't just sniper rifles. He was basically talking, I think he was mainly talking about kind of, at least from my take on the article when I read it looked like he was talking more about rifles in general. Not just...
Right, but did he say, like, when in the hands of mentally unstable people?
Yeah, but still.
Okay, wait. Did he say in the hands of mentally unstable people?
Look, my biggest issue is not the fact that he said that in certain circumstances and in the hands of unstable people, weapons can be considered, or rifles can be considered weapons of mass destruction.
They are.
My biggest issue was the fact that the Party of Freedom just advocated for the suspension of the Second and Fourth Amendments for certain individuals.
Okay, if you are mentally unstable, you should not have a gun. Point.
Okay. No. Hey, you're getting ahead of me here because you're staying on your one point where you think you're going to be able to nail me to the wall. You're not listening to what I'm saying. He then went on to double down and say, yes, he doesn't think that people that are on the terror watch list should be able to buy guns. There's no due process to get on that list. There's no due process to get off that list. So in 30 seconds, he basically said for a certain segment of the population, we should suspend both Second and Fourth Amendment in a 30-second spiel. That's crap. The party that's supposed to be all about freedom has turned out to be the party of freedom for me, but not for thee, which is the same crap that the other two parties are doing.
I mean, to be honest, I have come around to your side, I guess, so to speak, on the terror watch list issue, because you're right, you do need due process before, because then where does the line get drawn, I guess, when you're calling people crazy? But, I definitely see where common sense regulation needs to be taken, And
I'm not. You're missing the point again because I'm not opposed to common sense regulation. What I'm opposed to is the party that says, "Hey, I actually have, and I've been looking for it because I was going to make it part of what I let you listen to a few minutes ago, and then decided against it." I have the head of the Libertarian Party quoting one of their things that they pass out all over the place. It says, "Libertarian Party." Doing everything we can to take over the world and leave you alone. The party that keeps telling me they want smaller government just told me that all they're really looking to do is rearrange the seats at the table and make sure they get a bigger share of the pie, which is the same thing that we've been accusing the other two parties of for a very long time. So I'm sorry, just from that one thing alone, it's proved to me that there is no difference in our political classes anymore. They're one group of people, and they might as well just all lump themselves together and call themselves the cronyist party, because it's all about whose buddies are going to get looked at best, and it just depends on who's controlling the purse strings. And I'm sick of it.
Well, to be honest, though, I mean, with the Libertarian Party, you kind of knew what you were getting with Gary Johnson. I mean, he was the least, I guess, extreme of the Libertarian candidates, which made him this viable, but is also, I guess, kind of turned you away, who's sort of becoming, anarchist. No, I'm just kidding. But
oh no, I'm not an anarchist. I'm now actually a member of the Federalist Coalition. We are working to build a party for people that actually want common sense things and want things to be more towards the middle and are tired of the extremes on both sides telling everybody what it is that we need to do. I'll be the first one to tell you that if they can find a way to make it to the point where they don't label every single thing as a mental disorder, I'm okay with people that have had certain diagnoses maybe not having access to weaponry. I've told you my biggest thing with that right now is the way these laws are written now, they are also categorizing PTSD as a ground rule for not having access to a firearm. That would preclude about 95% of our police force from being able to carry firearms, because you can be diagnosed with PTSD anymore for getting a freaking hangnail.
Rick, I mean, you gotta be like, come on, if you have PTSD, there was just a guy, there was a video of him, he was about to go shoot up a courtroom, he sees a little child in the courtroom and says, I need help, and he put his gun back into his holster and walked out. The police obviously promptly arrested him after that, after seeing the surveillance tapes. But my point here is that...
But again, Bryce, not to cut you off, but you're missing the point. Do you know how many people are wrongly diagnosed with PTSD and then once it's on their file, they can't ever make it go away?
I mean, I'm really not sure, and I don't really know the diagnosis process for PTSD. But I mean,
well, that's and that's all I'm saying. Shouldn't we look into what is actually being considered a diagnosis for PTSD? What the criteria are? What you can do to prove when you've overcome said disability? Since at this point you're talking about removing the majority of our police force from active duty.
You need to have 3 different types of symptoms before you can be diagnosed with PTSD. So, I mean, all these things seem to be, I mean, I will trust my doctors if they say, I mean, I can't imagine every person who's diagnosed with PTSD, I can't even imagine a large percent of the population that's diagnosed with PTSD is wrongfully diagnosed.
But the point, okay, it's not even necessarily the wrongful diagnosis, though, Bryce. You're talking, PTSD is a wide-ranging thing. I have been diagnosed with PTSD, which means by that particular reference alone, I would not be able to carry a firearm.
Well, I can picture you, after listening to Opinion Nation, definitely having PTSD, just being like, liberals, they're coming from everywhere. But, look, I guess then, I'm not a doctor, but I guess then I would say, if you are on a certain scale of the PTSD spectrum, you shouldn't be able to have a firearm. I think that would be a fair place to start.
And again, I'm not opposed to us having these conversations, but the problem is we don't.
No, I agree. That's why we're the best, and they should essentially appoint us rulers of the country because, we'll just argue it out.
Oh, yeah.
But then I feel like the South would just secede, and I would just take the North and whatever.
That's all right. I would run the South, you would run the North, and I would obliterate you, so life is good.
Hey, I don't know if you remember, but it's 1-0, so...
That's why it's time for a rematch, biatch.
How we get onto these conversations, I will never know, but only on Finding Common Ground, folks.
All right, so anyway,
yeah,
my biggest point with all of this is, again, and like I said, it's more focusing on the terror watch list situation, because I will give that there needs to be some point when you've been diagnosed with a certain thing that you should maybe at least not have access to a firearm for a certain period of time until you can be reevaluated. But again, none of that language is going on right now. I don't have an issue with the police officer who's been diagnosed with PTSD being put on 6 months of desk duty so that they can have some time out of the field, have time to get reevaluated, and not necessarily have to worry about carrying their gun in stressful situations. I will tell you, after being someone who's been diagnosed with PTSD, there's a few months there where you're kind of looking at everything. I mean, as somebody who has been through that, even though I don't have a badge anymore, and I don't typically carry my gun everywhere anymore like I used to, I still, if I'm sitting in a public place, am hesitant to put my back to the door. It drives my wife crazy because she'll start trying to sit down, and I'll be like, nope, I got to sit on the other side. And she's like, why? Because I can't have my back to the door. Because it's training and it's ingrained. But that's also part of one of the things that they use as a diagnosis for PTSD. What they don't realize is human beings are creatures of habit. If people that have not done these type of professions don't understand those habits, they start looking at it like, well, that's a bit abnormal if you can't ever sit with your back to the door. No, it's not. It's training. It's ingrained, and you can't ever turn that type of stuff off. So that's what I'm saying. There are way too many easy ways to get these weird diagnoses that can inadvertently affect people. So if we can put time limits on it, seriously sit down and talk about it, talk about what scale of diagnosis there needs to be before they shouldn't have access to a weapon for a short term, what scale there needs to be before they don't have access to weapons for a longer term, then I'm okay with us actually having these discussions. But the problem, Bryce, and the thing that I can't seem to get anybody to understand, nobody that is currently running the government actually wants these things fixed, no matter what they tell you. Because if they would actually sit down, hammer it out, be reasonable, and fix the problems, they would work themselves out of a job. This is all they do. They get us worked up, they get us to pick up our banner, they get us to march off to war, and then it starts over again 4 years later. It's the same thing over and over and over again, and I'm tired of it, because if we're going to fix it, then by God, let's actually do something to fix it, not sit around and argue, well, my side's better than your side. Well, no, your side's crazy. Well, I'm over here, and I think we need a new side, but we're no better than you guys. We just hide it a little bit more. It's all a freaking shell game. We have been watching this pea get passed around for years. For years, and secretly and quietly, they've all been working together to get us riled up, keep us riled up, because then we don't notice the crap that's going on right in front of us.
Right, but then what do you call the 15-hour filibuster the Democrats proposed to get gun legislation even debated, and Republicans said no? I mean, it's not like...
Bryce, you're missing the point, because before they put all this show on the floor, they hash it all out. What you don't realize at this point is politics has become just like wrestling.
Fake.
Exactly. Fake. It's scripted. It's staged. They work it out ahead of time. They figure out what they're going to bring to the floor, when they're going to bring it to the floor, how they're going to bring it to the floor, and how they're going to make it look like they're actually trying to do something, when in all actuality they're not, because nobody wants to fix anything, because if we actually start fixing the things that are broken, eventually we're not going to need them anymore. Nobody's seeing this point, and the scary thing is, Bryce, they're not even hiding it anymore.
I mean, the biggest problem is these crazy right-wingers don't let debate happen. John Boehner
okay, look. No. Hey, you can't just bring this to crazy right-wingers. You can't. You can't, because your side is just as bad at it. That's my damn point.
How can you not say that under the Obama administration, the Republicans have not...
And how could... And hang on. When Obama had control of the House, what were the Democrats doing to anything that the Republicans wanted to propose? That's my point.
What are you talking about? He had a grand bargain that Republicans wouldn't let go through. They opposed it every step of the way. John Boehner wanted that grand bargain, thus the name, grand bargain. He wanted to do entitlement reform. He wanted to do all these things that were not allowed to happen because of Republicans. It's not like Obama...
Bryce, you're not... Okay, look, seriously, what are you, like 18 now? Go back and do some research and then come back to me and we'll have this conversation again next month, because the same thing happens to the minority party and the majority party every time it swings. Everybody says it's going to be different under the new majority, but it never is. Nothing ever gets done. Nothing ever gets accomplished, because the minority party is at that point fighting for a bigger share of the table again. So they're doing everything they can to stop the majority party from accomplishing anything. It happens whether the Republicans have the majority. It happens whether the Democrats have the majority. And it has for about the last 20 years. And that's part of the point that I'm trying to get across, that because you are still where I was about 3 years ago, you can't see it yet. Because I was exactly where you are right now, on the exact opposite side of the aisle. Because I was tired of looking at all the Democrats when anytime anybody was trying to do anything that would stand up and make this big circus. Well, what I figured out is the Republicans are doing the exact same thing, because there's no difference between the parties. And what scares me is we now have, for the first time ever, people taking a really hard, long look at the Libertarian Party, and the first time anybody's ever really paying attention to them and looking at them as a viable alternative, they come out and say the exact same thing that the majority of Americans don't want to hear, which is, hey, when it comes right down to it, we're going to find ways to suspend your constitutional rights whether you want us to or not. That is not what this country was founded on, and it wasn't founded on this crony capitalist BS that is rampant through every single party that we currently have. It's all behind the doors, closed backdoor deals. So if you want to start talking about all the things the Republicans have done wrong, how about the Obamacare negotiations that were supposed to be happening on C-SPAN? Where was that crap? What about the 3-4 week reading period for the American people to see what's going on with Obamacare before we allowed the people that we sent to Washington to make a decision on it? None of that happened, and that all happened under the Democrats, because we had to pass it to find out what was in it. So don't start mudslinging from one side unless you're willing to realize that your side is just as broken. Because I'm done pulling punches with every party that has a label right now, because they're all full of themselves and they're all full of crap.
What party are you? What are you, Rick? Who are you? Where are you from? What do you align with?
At this point, I align with no one other than the Federalist Coalition. And if we can
figure... What is the Federalist Coalition? Explain it to me,
everybody. Federalist Coalition is a group that has finally started to come together, and we're actually working on trying to find a party that will bring people from the center into a single place so that we can finally start working to get things done, even if it means eventually people don't need our party anymore. Because we literally want the country fixed. We're tired of the arguing. We're tired of the hemming and hawing. We're tired of the hand-wringing. We're tired of the pork fat and all the bills. We can't vote for this because they snuck this in here. We can't vote for that because they snuck this in here. We want this crap fixed. We want a smaller, more efficient government that actually does what it's supposed to do as outlined in the Constitution. Not all of this extra crap that we really don't need, all this extra crap that has started becoming this big behemoth that has to feed on itself. And that's what we want. We want what we thought that everybody wanted. A government that works for us, not against us. A government that does the things that they say they're going to do. And a government that actually tries to fix things when they're broken. For God's sake, Donald Trump just backtracked on the whole deficit thing and said that now's the perfect time for the American government to spend more money instead of worrying about reducing the deficit. This is the person that we're trying to put in charge of the whole country. Hillary Clinton is just as bad, and the Libertarian Party still doesn't know their rear end from a hole in the ground. So no, I don't have a home right now, and I'm fine with that. As far as I'm concerned, and I said this on Twitter yesterday, and I said it on the air last night, I'm going to say it again today. I am officially at war with all three major parties in this country. I don't care who you are, what you stand for. If you can't find a way to help me fix this country, get the hell out, period.
All right, but here's the all right, so on NPR I heard this thing about liberal patriots and how at the Democratic National Convention, you saw all the people chanting USA, USA, and the Democrats seemed more in love with America than the Republicans did. So, or more patriotic at least. Now, I've always been very patriotic, and I guess I kind of was happy when I heard him say the term liberal patriots. But when you give that rhetoric, if you don't like it, get out, that type of thing, don't you think that that's kind of un-American? The whole idea of America is that you come here, bring every idea, and let's work it out together, as opposed to just saying, get out if you don't like the way I like it.
That's not what I said.
Well, it's kind of how the message comes off. Then what do you mean when you say, get out?
What I mean is, if the only thing that you're looking to do is broaden your seat at the political table, we don't need you. Get out of that business. That's not why you were sent to Washington. That's the problem that we have with 99.9% of our politicians, all the way from the local level all the way up through national. They didn't get into this for the right reasons. Some of them did, and then they got twisted along the way. It's the same thing that we talk about all the time. You spend too much time in politics, eventually you get chewed up by the machine and spit out. Look at John McCain when he first went to D.C. compared to how John McCain behaves now. That's my point. That's my problem. When it becomes all about you, making sure that you get to hold on to your power instead of you putting the American people first and actually fixing what's broken, we don't need you anymore. It's time for you to go away so other people can come in and actually try to fix what's broken. That's what the Tea Party was about. That's what all these other little fringe movements have been about that have never been able to get any traction. And at this point, again, the parties aren't even hiding the fact that they're working together anymore. They're doing it right in front of you, because every single time Hillary Clinton gets an inkling of bad press, all of a sudden here comes Donald Trump to the rescue, white knighting, pushing her out of the way and jumping on the press's grenade and making himself look like a total moron, because he is of the mindset that there's no such thing as bad press. The problem is the American people are only going to put up with that crap for so long, and it's why his numbers continue to drop and drop and drop and drop. And I don't like Hillary Clinton either. There are too many scandals. There are too many issues. Even if you don't think the email thing was a big deal, there are way too many other things that have happened in her past.
So I'm sorry for that noise. I just played a Now This video on Facebook, and it appears that it's about something interesting. So my apologies for those interesting noises right there. All right.
I kind of thought maybe you had some lotion in your hand and were getting a little bored with me.
No. So, no, actually, not at all. That is from Now This, future NT, actually, by the way. I'm on Facebook, FYI. But anyways, so, the blunders you have when you're scrolling through news feeds to talk about, I use Facebook to talk about various, topics. The blunders that I have with some videos that get clicked, I want to make like a montage of it throughout my time on the radio and just see how often. But I feel like it would be like a 15-minute clip of whoops, sorry, and they're just scrambling for the keyboard or something, whatever.
No, actually, it would probably be a 15-minute clip with this running in the background. Hang on. I don't have the volume set right. I forgot I turned it down.
See what had happened was, 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 see what had happened was.
Yeah, pretty much. No, that's pretty true. And yeah, I think, I don't know, does anybody else make these types of mistakes, or is it just me? I feel like it's just me sometimes, pressing the wrong buttons, pressing the wrong videos all the time. Yeah.
Okay, look, Bryce, everybody knows it's only the wrong video when your parents walk in the room. Everybody watches that kind of stuff. It's okay.
I hate you so much sometimes. Just whatever. All right. Anyways, can it be 11:30 already? I'm.
Oh, so now that you have Miss Dr. Jill Stein coming on, you got no time for me. Is that what you're saying?
You know you're coming on the show. Come on. I mean, look, I'm a little just to kind of jump ships, and we're going to talk about this again on Opinion Nation. But in reference to a third-party candidate, such as Jill Stein, whose polls are in like the 3%, I just get curious, and I'm going to ask, why are you running? Because there is no path to victory, right? She's in 47 states, which already gives her a disadvantage. I mean, for heaven's sake, Lloyd Kelso is supposed to be on the same amount of states as her. And it seems that she's scrabbling for Bernie supporters who, within the Democratic Party, couldn't even win. So why does she think, it's just the logic, the numbers, they don't add up for success right there. So I don't understand why, A, she's spending the resources and time. Costs, and the best person to carry on at least most of our message is Hillary Clinton. So I don't get, can you help me break it down? What is the mindset of somebody running who there is no pathway to victory?
The mindset of people running that they understand there's no pathway to victory is gradual change. Because at this point, what you just said is exactly what's been driving our political system now for about the last 20 years, and it's fear-based. And it's happening for the first time ever in both parties. I've never seen it like this before. I've never seen liberals actually saying you can't vote for a third party because if you do, then that's basically a vote for Trump. That's always been our language. That's been our mindset now for years. We can't vote third party or it's a vote for the Democrat. That's been how the Republicans have tried to keep control and keep everybody under thumb and keep the fear base going. And now it's happening with your party as well as mine. And the reason it's happening in your party as well as mine is because up until now it's worked. It's worked every single time. They may not win, but they keep people in line by making them understand at some point we have to rally behind whoever the victor is. That shouldn't be what decides this anymore. Our votes are not owned by anyone. They're not.
The thing is, it's like, and you'll see in the interview, Jill Stein is calling for some radical changes that are, if you want to be a viable candidate, you wouldn't have certain, these ideas in your platform, which I don't understand. And
hang on. That's not true.
Yeah.
Hang on. Because,
right, yeah.
No, bear with me for a second. Because the one thing that Nicholas Sarwark actually said one of the times that he was on my show that is absolutely true is the Libertarian Party got well behind the marriage equality movement before any of the other parties did. But there were people in both parties that were pushing for it even though it wasn't popular. A lot of times they weren't the ones that made it to the finish line, but they were the ones that kicked the ball down the field so somebody else could keep running with it. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about gradual change of public mindset. It happens over time. It usually takes about 2 generations for people to change their mind on something. We're actually watching that happen before our eyes because it's been about 40 years since the Libertarian Party really started trying to take hold. They actually were formed right around the same time that I was born. But that's my point. There has been a generational shift, and it usually takes about 2 generations. In basic general terms, a generation is about 20 years. So we're watching the shifting of 2 generations of people that have finally, in some ways, found a home that they didn't have before. And that's one of the reasons why some of the things that you're seeing taking place now are happening today, because they put in the groundwork for it, and they did the hard work, and they were willing to fall on their sword and realize that maybe they weren't going to get to the finish line, but somebody else was going to pick up the work. That's how we have to start looking at these things. We can't keep looking at this like a checkers game. This needs to be a chess game. And in any chess game, you need to be at least 8 moves ahead of your opponent in your head to be able to stay ahead and be able to win the match. But the whole point of this is everybody, and at this point, the Democrats have been doing a better job about this up until now, because my side, or my former side, used to play checkers while the Democrats were playing chess. What we didn't realize was, though, those of us that were invested in the Republican Party and thought they stood for what they actually tell everybody they stand for when they're in front of television cameras, is they're no different than anybody else that's in office. They're looking out for themselves, they're wanting to increase their share at the table, and they're wanting to shore up their power base. So these people that are coming up, the folks that you have been having on your show that are spending their time and their money, they're not doing it because they know that they're going to win. They're not doing it because they know that they have a shot. They're doing it because it's something that they absolutely positively believe in, and they're wanting to kick the ball further down the field. That's it. They know they're not going to be the ones to get there, but they also know that if they will do it, other people will do it as well. And that's the same mindset that I'm in right now. And you asked me who I am, where I've come from. I don't have a home right now when it comes to politics. I don't, because there are too few people in the world that actually want to fix the problems. All they want to do is bitch about the problems, blame the other side for the problems, and make their side look better. And then it doesn't really matter if your side doesn't win, because, hey, then you get 4 more years to bitch about all the things that you could have fixed if only somebody would have voted for Trump, which is what a lot of these Sean Hannitys, Rush Limbaughs, and Laura Ingrams are looking at, is if Trump doesn't get into office, we're going to be able to take these people apart that stopped him from getting into office for the next 4 years. And the same thing happens on the other side of the aisle. It doesn't matter really who wins, because all you're doing at that point is saying, well, we can just dig our heels in and make sure that that side doesn't get to accomplish much, and then we get in 4 more years we get to try it again, instead of actually doing what the parties used to do. Because about 25 years ago, it was a completely different thing. Whichever party won and had the majority, the other party would actually come across the aisle and work with them and say, okay, so these are my ideas. What are your ideas? Let's find somewhere in the middle. That doesn't happen anymore. It hasn't happened in about 25 years because everything's become polarized, everything's become politicized, and even people like the Huffington Post are figuring out just how broken everything is, because they and Salon both have decided to start moving more towards the center. Instead of being the left-leaning publications, they want to start bringing people into the middle, because everybody's starting to figure out just how broken this all is, and the only way to fix it is by finally starting to find a way to come together and make things better and quit waiting for the government to fix it, because the government's never going to fix it, because when they fix it, we don't need them anymore. And that's the prevalent message of this election cycle from all of these people that are running to affect the changes and to try to make a difference is, no, I'm probably not going to be the one that you're going to be swearing in January, but by God, I'm going to do everything I can to take the part of this message that I believe in, make sure that it gets some exposure, and see if somebody else will help me get it the rest of the way. To bring it back to what's going on around the world right now, think of it like the Olympic torch. Not one person could do what they do with the Olympic torch, but it gets carried and carried because when one person stops, it's handed to another person and it just keeps going. That is how change is affected, and that is what we need to do. And that is why, even though I disagree with 99.98% of everything that comes out of Jill Stein's mouth, I applaud the fact that she's standing up, taking her own money, and doing what she thinks she needs to do to try to make the country a better place instead of just looking for a bigger share at the table.
I might be afraid that she's doing it for... I mean, I don't know.
She can't be, Bryce, because she knows she's not going to get there. No matter what she tells everybody when the cameras are on and when the show's recording or when she's on TV or whatever the case may be, she knows in her heart that she's not going to be the one to cross the finish line. She knows it. So there's no way that she's doing this to get a bigger seat at the table. Because even up until now, the Libertarian Party, they didn't ever think they were going to have a shot at most of this stuff anyway, so they were sticking to their ideals, and they were making sure that people understood that there was a third choice. But now that they're getting the spotlight, they've become just another group looking to increase their share at the table. That's the problem. All movements start with the best of intentions. But what happens is much like what happens with a business. Someone starts a business, has a wonderful idea about what they're going to do with it, a.k.a. Walmart, Sam Walton, and then Sam Walton dies, and all of a sudden it becomes this complete, total turnaround from what he wanted. There's very few American products. People are making below what should be standard wages, and I'll be the first one to admit to you that $7.75 an hour is not enough to live on. Or $7.25, but I don't think the government should be the one mandating that when there are ways that we could give people an incentive to take better care of their people. It sucks that we need those incentives. It sucks that we need a carrot or a stick approach for people to pay people livable wages, but that's not the government's business. It's never been the government's business, and it shouldn't be the government's business. And that's why I'm so terrified by what the Libertarian Party's vice presidential candidate said yesterday, because up until now, they've been the ones saying that we want the government out of everybody's business. And then he says this.
With Gary Johnson and Bill Weld, from all the town halls I've seen, the two that they did with CNN, from all the conferences I've seen them do, Bill Weld sounded like the candidate. Johnson sounded like idealistic guy who, quite frankly, was clueless until Bill Weld stepped in, and all of his policies were like the way he asked, the way he answered questions.
Oh my God!
Perhapses and maybes.
Sorry,
not very reassuring.
He just doubled down. This just came across my feed. Libertarian VP pick slams guns. Handguns are even worse than AR-15s. In 2016, the 2016 election is proving to be one of the oddest in recent memory. The Democratic nominee isn't a progressive, the Republican isn't a conservative, and the Libertarian isn't, well, libertarian.
And the Green Party candidate isn't green. So,
well, yeah. the Green Party candidate, I think, has more to do with their whole concept of making the planet more eco-friendly.
Oh, no, I was joking. She's not literally green, was what I meant.
Well, yeah, I know what you meant, but I'm saying I don't think the green has much to do with the color at this point. I think it's more their eco-friendly stances, which is why I'm surprised you're being so mean to her.
I'm not mean to her. It's just that, look, I actually was looking through her platform, and one of my biggest problems with it that I'm going to ask her questions on is their idealistic promises. They're promises that can't be kept. She says in her platform, and this is a quote, to end police brutality, to abolish student loan debt. And this is going to be one of the questions I ask. Well, you say that, and that's all well and good, but you provide no plan to do so. I could say I'm going to end police brutality, and as President of the United States, that sounds great. But 4 years from now, like, come on. And then you say, I'm going to abolish student loan debt. The amount of money that would take, I mean, it's not even wise to do so. What we should be doing is refinancing student loans to cheaper rates and probably making public schools tuition free. That would probably be optimal. And the loans that are currently taken out, again, refinance them to a lower rate, but to abolish them is That's a pretty hefty load you're asking for. But she provides no way of doing so. And it continues. She says she wants 100% green energy by 2030. I mean, look, I am all for that. And I'm going to get the exact words of her platform. So for the green energy, she says, enact an an emergency Green New Deal to turn the tide on climate change, revive the economy and make wars on oil obsolete, initiate World War II scale national mobilization to halt climate change, the greatest threat to humanity in our history, create 20 million jobs by transitioning to 100% clean renewable energy by 2030 and investing in public transit and sustainable agriculture, conservation and restoration of critical infrastructure, including ecosystems. My God, are you still talking? I hate when you use that one. But my point here is that it just doesn't make sense to me that, plan this out for me.
Just when I think you've said the stupidest thing ever, you keep talking.
See, I know them by heart now. Can we find a different button?
Shit, Negro. That's all you had to say.
Ken still know these ones. All right, so what do you think, Rick?
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
Pretty much. Anyway, I've been trying to wind you down because I realized we completely blew through the break, so we got to take a break, folks. We'll be right back.
Go to break. I hate this job.
Well, I can always find a new co-host.
No.
What I thought.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems, but perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple.
It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems, but perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy.
All right, folks, we're back, and we're well past into the second half of the show, so we got to start really winding things down. I figured we'd go back to old home because we can agree on this one. Trump is a moron. I have a few clips of some things that, I have a clip of something that he said recently, and then I have a couple of clips of some contradictions that I've been running all over the place, just trying to make sure that people can hear that, it doesn't matter if we listen to Trump because he says what he wants to say in any given moment, and we don't ever know which Trump we're actually going to be hearing from. This one was in the recent situation where bad news was breaking about Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump suddenly said this.
And by the way, and if she gets to pick her judges, nothing you can do, folks. Although the Second Amendment people, maybe there is, I don't know. But
okay, so two things. First of all, the reason a lot of us listened to that and kind of went, what? Was because he didn't say there's something that you Second Amendment folks can do about it now. What he said was, if she gets to pick her judges, there's nothing you can do, well, except for maybe you two-way folks. So a lot of folks are saying maybe it was a threat, maybe it wasn't. I'm kind of leaning more towards I think I know that he's nuts, so it probably was. But two things I took away from that. One, he is obviously not a two-way person because he said you two-way people, but he keeps telling everybody that he's pro-Second Amendment. Word choice matters when you tell people what you believe in, because when you're not telling them the truth often comes out in the weirdest points and weirdest places. The other thing about this was, again, the fact that if it was something that he was talking about doing now, why was he talking about if she gets to make her judge picks, there's nothing you can do? The third thing is that's a lie. Supreme Court justices can be impeached. We keep acting like these are lifetime appointments. Once they're in, there's nothing you can do. They're there till they die. That's common practice, but if it gets too bad and we have enough of a pendulum shift actually back toward the center, which honestly, even though our political parties don't want it to be, it seems like that's the direction the country's going. There are ways to remedy the situation because they can be impeached. But nobody's talking about that. Everybody that's like, oh my God, if she gets into office, she's going to get to pick the Supreme Court justice, is going to wreck the country for the next 40 years. Okay, well maybe she does. But if she does, it's only because you morons supported this guy instead of somebody that could have stopped her. And even if it comes to that, we can fix it. Maybe. But at least there's still an option other than 2A people. Because I'm sorry, when the party of Lincoln is now the party of John Wilkes Booth. What the hell?
That is perfect. I give you applause on that line. That was definitely one of my favorite lines you ever used. When the party of Lincoln becomes a party of John Wilkes Booth. I mean, no, but let's be real. Don't you think that Donald Trump might have and I'm actually serious about this. Do you think he might have a mental disease? Because the things he says...
Short answer, yes.
I mean this with no disrespect to people with mental disease, but the things he does and says are insane. And it only leads me to believe that half the American people might share in with his disease because this doesn't make sense.
No. I'm not going to go that far. I will tell you that I do think that Trump has a problem, and actually, I'm about to play a clip that's going to reinforce that for a lot of folks. But what I'm going to tell you is it's not that the majority of the so-called used-to-be Republican Party have the same mental disorder. They've been buying into the fear politics that your side of the aisle is just now starting to get into for the last 3 cycles. But anyway, so just more proof of exactly how weird Donald Trump is. Here's a little montage of some things he's saying now compared to things that he said before. We got a couple of clips of those. Not going to make you sit through the whole 6 minutes like I did on my own show.
I'm the only one on the stage that said we should not go into Iraq.
Are you for invading Iraq?
Yeah, I guess so. I wish it was. I wish the first time it was done correctly.
I'm very pro-life.
I'm very pro-choice.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle? There has to be some form of punishment.
I am pro-choice in every respect.
Will the real Donald Trump please stand up?
How? Like, it's bizarre, Rick. He is bizarre. In fact, when he said the thing about the pro-choice, he literally said word for word, I'm very pro-choice, and then said recently, I'm very pro-life. Like, the wording doesn't change.
Same word choice, same inflections. I'm telling you, he's reading from a mental script, and that's why things come out as crazy as they do. Look, everybody accuses me of not reading his book. Anybody who's ever read his book would actually understand what he's been doing now for the last year and a half, almost 2 years.
Are you talking about Art of the Deal?
Yes. Otherwise known as the art of lie your ass off till somebody buys what you're trying to sell.
Why don't you go tell those same people to take that book and shove it where the sun don't shine? Because the guy who ghost wrote that book for Donald Trump is stating now how Donald Trump contributed absolutely zip to that book, and how he propped up the book because, he was making money off of it, and in hindsight, he regretted writing the book. So go tell those people that. He did all these interviews on NPR, and I've been considering to asking him to come on my show. But he's stating how The Art of the Deal is a sham. It's a book that was written by him because he needed money, it was his living, and he regrets it entirely now. So,
oh no, I understand all that, but what I'm saying is the core concept, at least, of the book, because a ghostwriter can't be a ghostwriter unless there was at least a kernel of an idea from the guy that the book was actually supposed to be centered around. And knowing Trump the way I'm beginning to know Trump, I know that at least there was a core of Trump, and the guy basically expounded on it and turned it into a book when it really should have been in reality maybe a 2-page pamphlet. Because the simple fact of the matter is, what The Art of the Deal outlines, and the core principle behind The Art of the Deal, is to tell people what they want to hear. That's what he does. That's why you can't ever get him to say the same thing twice. And everybody's talking about how he's so not politically correct, and he says what everybody wants to hear. Really? Then why does he walk it back 3 days later and say, I was only joking? Do you people not understand sarcasm? No, I understand sarcasm. As a matter of fact, I'm fluent in sarcasm. That wasn't sarcasm. And so I can make sure to squeeze this last one, and this one will run for about 40 seconds, and it's even worse than the first one.
Donald, true or false, you've said the government should pay for everyone's health care?
That's false.
You've never said that.
Everybody's got to be covered.
Universal health care.
I am going to take care of everybody.
Who pays for it?
The government's going to pay for it, but we're going to save so much money on the other side.
He said I was in favor of Libya.
I never discussed that subject.
I was in favor of Libya. We would be so much better off if Gaddafi were in charge right now.
Gaddafi in Libya is killing thousands of people. We should go in. We should stop this guy, which would be very easy and very quick. Stop him from doing it and save these lives.
Again, will the real Donald Trump please stand up?
Dude, this guy represents millions of Americans. Let that soak in.
I don't need to let it soak in because I've been the one from about 2 months into his campaign telling everybody they were making a huge mistake. I've admitted this on air, and I'm going to admit it on air again and probably for about the first 2 months that he had announced. I wasn't on the Trump train, but I was considering buying a ticket. Because I liked some of the things that he was saying, and I liked some of the way that he was saying them. But then I realized he doesn't have an off switch, and he doesn't stop. Donald Trump is the adult equivalent of the recess playground bully. And what I mean by that, and I have to give a hat tip to a friend of mine, and you know who you are because you wrote the article. I'm not going to mention your name on the air because I haven't gotten your permission to do so. But he pointed out in an article that he wrote recently that watching the Donald Trump campaign is a lot like watching the bully at recess. When recess first starts and the bully decides to pick somebody out and they trip them, a lot of people will stand around and they'll laugh and they'll kind of think it's funny. But then as the recess continues and the bully doesn't stop and keeps going after them and going after them and going after them, fewer and fewer people find it funny. We're watching this play out in front of our eyes. This man who keeps saying that he hires only the best people turns around and then fires those same very best people. This man...
He doesn't even mention who the best people are.
Well, this man who says that he's going to run the best campaign ever, going to fund it all himself, really hasn't been funding it all himself for quite some time. Also, doesn't have an inkling of what to tell his people to do. Told them to suspend all announcements about his VP choice because they weren't going to do it because of the Paris attack, and then makes an unscripted, unplanned, unannounced announcement on Twitter and left all of his PR people standing flat-footed, looking around, scratching their head, saying, I thought we weren't going to do this and we're not prepared. Because he doesn't understand how this works, and I'm telling you right now, he doesn't want the job. He already, through his son, before Kasich said, nope, I'm out, can't endorse him. And I know now why Kasich said and stood to his ground and said, I can't endorse him. Because there was a private conversation between one of the Trump sons and Kasich. And the Trump son, when they were considering asking Kasich, because it would make it a shoo-in for him to win Ohio. Now that he's targeted Kasich, he probably won't, because Kasich is really popular there. If he wanted to be the most powerful vice presidential candidate and possibly vice presidential person in history. And Kasich said, well, what do you mean by that? He said, well, how would you like to be in charge of domestic and foreign policy, which are the two main jobs of the president, by the way. And it would be unconstitutional for the vice president to have control of those because the powers are of each head are specifically outlined. But that's Kasich was actively helping Trump. There's no other reason why Kasich would have been in the race. Because if Kasich would have dropped out, it would have been Trump and Cruz a lot sooner, and people might have been able to make a decision. Because if you'll notice, Trump was the one that was calling for the two-person debate for Cruz until there was an option for the two-person debate for Cruz. And then now, well, we've done too many debates as it is. The American people just need to make a decision based on what we've already said. Now he's talking crap about the debates with Hillary Clinton because they're scheduled next to his friends that are in the NFL, and he doesn't want to take away from their ratings. No, what it tells me, Donald, is you really don't want to be president. You've never wanted to be president, and that's why the leak of your supposed television channel just came out yesterday that you plan on launching after the election. You cannot be president and run a new television network at the same time. It's not going to happen, so that tells me that you've never been serious, which is what I've been telling people now for months, and nobody wanted to listen to me. Nobody wanted to believe me, because if he wasn't serious, then by God, he would have dropped out by now, Rick. No, he wouldn't, because he needed to ramp it up to make sure that he got plenty of publicity for all the crap that he's working on behind the scenes that nobody knows about yet. But we got to go, because we need to change to yours.
That's right. Stay tuned, folks, because Jill Stein is going to be on Opinion Nation at 11:30, and if you want to hear Rick and I banter a little bit longer, we're going to be doing so until then. So stay tuned. We're going to kick shifts over to Opinion Nation coming up next.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems, but perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple.